You can't afford to not have a plan. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Healing into Femininity. My name is Joanna Fatonji, and today we're diving into the topic of designing your life with intention. As I said in the intro, you can't afford to not have a plan. You can't coast through life, and you can't pray and hope and manifest and just sit there and hope for the best, hope that God works everything out. No, you have to realize that the true power that you have is to design and create your life with intention. And today I want to dive in and give you 3 tips on how you can start designing your life. So the first is to assess your life. The first step to change your life and create a more desirable life is to actually see where you are today, right? Right now, in this moment, look at yourself, look at your life from the bird's eye view. Look down on your life as if it's not yours, right? Look at your health, look at your relationships, look at your career, and look at your time and money freedom. How do these areas look like in your life? Are you satisfied? Are you happy? Do you find severe dysfunction? Or can you say there is a balance? I can't answer this question for you. It's an opportunity for you to assess and to dive deeper. Okay. So you want to assess and really see what's going on in all of the areas of your life and see how one area impacts the other, because how you do one thing is how you do everything, and life is a holistic system, right? So when you don't have money, it affects your health. If you don't have health, it affects your money. Same with relationships, right? Health affects relationships, energy level affects relationships, right? Money affects relationships because money affects where you can go, what you can do, to which socioeconomic bracket you belong, right? What can you afford? What can't you afford? And again, you can't afford to not have a plan. Okay. So, very important for you to assess your life, take stock, take inventory, write off your losses, right? And count your wins. And that's the next point I want to lead us to. Is point number 2 is to assess your privileges, right? Really see in what areas you actually have cards dealt in your favor. And when I speak about privileges, I'm really speaking about taking the whole system that we live in into account. And that means patriarchy, racism, and capitalism, most of all, right? Patriarchy, racism, and also sexism, classism, right? Those things are the intangible, or let's say the invisible rules of this society, right? We have to understand this system. So, in this system, as we said, patriarchy is about being a man, right? Most of all, being a white man. That means you're automatically on the most privileged side of society. I know not all white men are actually using or wielding that power, but if you're a white man, the cards are for you. Okay. So, what does that mean? Men are on top, right? And then women. And then, let's be real, the color scale from pale to very dark. That is just this system. And everyone has this program. No matter if you're black, white, Asian, we all know the scale, the hierarchy, consciously or subconsciously. Yeah. I'm not subscribing to that's the truth. It's man made, right? But we have to know that this is the system that we live in. So when you know that this is the frame, this is the real frame, this is the pyramid scheme, this is the cult that we all live in. So when you know that, you can honestly, maturely assess what are your privileges in this system of hierarchy. So, taking me, for example, I'm a young brown woman. Okay, so I can't change my gender. I won't. I'm a woman. I can't change my skin color. I won't. It's the way it is, okay? But what I can do is stack my education. I like to call it privilege stacking. Okay, privilege stacking. I didn't make up that word, someone else did. I got it from the social media streets. So, privilege stacking is about assessing again what cards are in your favor. So, for me, it is coming from a relatively good household, right? We were definitely middle class to upper middle class. My mom was in a leadership position. My mom remarried a white man, and both worked until the end of their working years. They're now in having their pension and they're enjoying their old age, living from their pension, traveling the world 5 times a year, and really having a good understanding of the capital system and the market. They have invested, right? They have their own pension fund. They have invested in the stock market. They have invested in crypto. They have divided their assets, right? And they live from their dividends. So that's the household that I come from. I'm very close to my mom. I've watched her grow up walking through the society as a very um, very mature, a very socially elegant woman. She knew how to sell. She was in sales. She was in the later years in leadership positions. And I always stayed close to my mom. I worked with her in her company or in the company she worked. So I've always been following the way she moves. Okay, I'm not a white woman, but I've seen a successful white woman navigate society. So I learned a lot from my mother. And I learned a lot from my white stepdad who loved me, who still loves me, who supports me, and who gives me tips and all of that. So I feel very privileged in my household. Was it always perfect? No, I'm not glorifying it, because on the other side I also have my Ghanaian dad. I stayed close to him since until he died. I stayed close to him until he died. And I also know the whole system and the whole dynamic in my African family. Okay. So I see this as a privilege. My understanding of culture, my understanding of power, my understanding of privilege, having the influence and the love and the care and the nurture and the investment of my mother and my stepdad. And therefore, the next thing is I had the privilege, the money, the support, the time, not the pressure of needing to work right after school. I could go to university. So I went to university. I studied international business. I studied in Germany and I studied in France. I studied in a private school. Like I've had all of these experiences, which I count as my privileges. I have very good social skills, talking skills, connecting skills. I'm a charismatic person. I know that. And this is what I unconsciously also used at the beginning of my career. So the first time I got into and my first corporate job was through a personal contact who was a white man who liked me. And I asked him, and he offered me a place in the department that he managed. So that's how I got my first job. I wasn't aware of all of the strength and the charisma and the magic that I carried until I became a certified life coach and did exactly what I'm teaching you now. So, stacking privileges, right? Knowing the household that you come from. Maybe yours was similar to mine or not. I know that most people don't come from a fortunate background, and that's okay. We can move through that. That is the work of personal development, right? Heal childhood wounds and really come into a place of self-awareness and assessing exactly what we're doing. So, privilege stacking. household fundamentals, then education, right? I have a broad experience, international experience, corporate experience. I continued in corporate as also doing charity work and yeah, nonprofit work, community work. I did that. So I have contact with the government, with social fundings, right? I hosted a lot. I did work with kids. So these are things where I've already moved in positions of giving back, right? Good. So that's for me. Again, I'm just stating that for you to reflect back on you and see what privileges do you have? Another privilege, yes, is beauty privilege, thin privilege. I'm speaking the truth, right? If you're triggered, continue to watch. Don't cut this off and say, oh my God, that's so shallow. That's the reality of things. And the sooner you are able to digest these truths, the sooner you can start working on yourself and actually stack your own privileges, okay? Beauty privilege, thin privilege, um, yeah, and then also like the education, as I said, right? All of the things are privileges. There are many more, but I want you to now understand that you have privileges, right? I'm not a man, I'm not a white man, but I know that I have a solid family background. I have education, I have beauty, I have the gift of speech. I learned it, I refined it, I'm continuing to refine it. I can articulate myself. I am well in social settings. I know people. I have community. I have given back to community, right? All of those things, right? These are my privileges. These are my cards, and I need to play them right. So do you. So please assess your privileges, right? Don't feel defeated. Don't feel bogged down when you're now realizing that maybe you had certain privileges and you jeopardized them, or asking yourself, what are my privileges? As I said, you can always find something in your favor. When you find your privileges and find your cards, the cards you've been dealt, use them, right? Use them, and then the next part is to eliminate all of the things that are keeping you down. Again, let's go back to the bird's eye view and looking at your life, assessing your life, health, relationships, career, time and money freedom, and being honest, really truthfully looking at these areas of your life, just as your home, your environment, right? Really being honest and looking at it from a bird's eye view, seeing what needs your attention, but also finding the privileges within each area that you can build on. Again, I want to give you the picture of taking stock, right? Taking inventory. The things that are broken need to go, but everything that is still solid, you keep it, okay? And then you continue to build, okay? Work on your privileges, stack your privileges, okay? So, very important. With this assessment, this is the beginning of the journey. This is the beginning of the journey for you to really see where you are. And again, not in the Lulu land, not somewhere um, disconnected from the world that we live in. And the world that we live in is a prison world, is a cult already. Patriarchy, the hierarchy of racism, and capitalism. Again, also with these three things, right? As I said, stack your privileges. Some things you can't change. Patriarchy, I can't change my gender, right? Racism, I can't change my skin color. Capitalism, yes, we can work on that. And this is exactly what my message is. I advise that, right? That is exactly what we're doing here, is to stack our privileges to actually enter the marketplace and play our cards right so we can use our privileges, our advantages, our strength in favor to enter the trade market. That means creating business, right? Creating a leverage, creating a brand, creating a business through our strength and our privileges. Okay? So that is the first step. I want you to assess your life, all of the areas of your life, be truthful to yourself. See that you do have privileges, you do have things in your favor. Leverage them, use them, harness them, refine them, work on them, strengthen them. Okay? And then try to manage your weaknesses and clean up the mess that you might have created from a more unconscious space, being unaware, right? Being unaware, being in Delulu land, not really taking responsibility. We've all been there. I have been there too. But this is the time where we are taking our lives into our own hands, taking responsibility, being mature, and doing the work necessary in order for you to create the life that you truly love living. And this is why I say you can't afford to not have a plan, and you also can't afford to waste time. Somebody who changes their lives needs to know that they have to take action. Time is of the essence. So if you're ready to work with me, you can find the links down below. My coaching programs are open. You can find the link to the school community is free. You find the whole vision workshop that helps you actually to dive deeper into the assessment of your life. You find it in the free community. You also find some intention meditation inside the community to start setting your intentions for the life that you're creating. And if you really want to dive deep and be part of the next Dream Builder cohort, apply for a strategy session. If we are a good fit to work together, I will invite you to be part of the Dream Builder program. This is for leaders, for people who are really ready to change their lives, take full responsibility, full accountability for their lives, for their success. And yeah, if that calls you, I'll see you in the group. I'll see you in the strategy session. Otherwise, I see you in the next video. Until then, take charge.